this is where the Beatles stopped touring the U.S. and they said, we can stop touring, and we can just we can make an album that, it's not just a bunch of filler, not just, but as an album that can be a complete statement. That's the best way I've ever heard about this album itself. And here's the track listing right now. So, and some of my favorite Beatles songs in general are on this record too. But let's get right to it, shall we? So, um, the original, the North American release here, because I got it here. Sorry, one sec. There we go. All right, drive my car, Norwegian Wood. This bird has flown. Um, you won't see me, nowhere, man. Think for yourself, the word, and Michelle. That is side one. That is just side one of the Beatles album Rubber Soul. Let's go to side two. Is what goes on. Girl, I'm looking through you. In my life. Wait, and if I needed someone, and run for your life. These are oh, and also, sorry. Also, I've just seen a face was on Help, but they also put it on this record too in the North American release. So we'll touch on that in a second. But yeah, um, man, you want to talk about a transitional time period in music history for any artist ever? Going from an album like Help, which had like some really good, like very good songs on it, to going from there to this. What a transition! What a big transition of just making an album what we now know today as, oh, that's a great album. It's not just a collection of songs. It's not just a bunch of singles that get bundled into an album. It's an album. It's a complete statement, and this one solidified that for me at least. So, my standout tracks are "Drive My Car," um, "You Won't See Me." I actually heard live, which was great. Um, uh, uh, for whatever reason, "What Goes On" always sticks out to me by with Ringo on the vocals. I love that one. "In My Life" is in my top 25 favorite songs. Sorry, my top 30 favorite songs of all time. "In My Life," just up there for me. It's just an incredible song. It's my grandmother's favorite song too of theirs too. So, that has a very special place in my heart for that one. "Wait, if I needed someone." It's just it, this is the part where the Beatles became the Beatles, in my opinion. They weren't just a club band. They weren't just let's release an album with like a couple of singles and the rest is filler. This is a complete statement record, and I mean, the ones I mentioned are like my super, like, I love those tracks. I go back to them all the time, kind of thing. But like, "Drive My Car," "Norwegian Wood," "You Won't See Me Nowhere," man. And this is, as I said, this is where an album became an album for many people for generations to come. It started right here, in my opinion, at least. So that's kind of where I sit. But yeah, I love this record. It's one of my favorite Beatles albums in general. And "In My Life" is just so, like, the fact that George Martin played the piano in that solo there, just great solo overall, great song, great everything in general. I love this record so much. And when I was playing it on my turntable, getting ready for our stream, over the past week or two, I was like, man, I forgot how good like this album is, as a record, just as a whole collection of songs that are really just coming to their own. And plus, this is where the songs get a little bit longer too. Like "You Won't See Me" is 3 minutes and 18 seconds, and like they start pushing boundaries a little bit more. Like, hey, let's have a song go a little bit quicker. Let's have this song go a little bit longer. Let's have this type of sound. "Norwegian Wood." It's funny, man. But Mike just mentioned Bob Dylan, but Bob Dylan was a big influence on that song. Actually, I don't know if you knew that, but you can kind of hear Lennon like diversifying his lyrics more and more as time goes on. But yeah, this is just a great record overall. The songs I listed are my favorite tracks off the record, but my God, this is just a phenomenal record. I mean, Mike, I'm curious to see what you have to say about this one, though.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you really get that bassy kind of 70s feel from this album. This is 1965, which is crazy because I mean, they were really setting the precedent for what was to come in the kind of funky, kind of groovy, uh, you know, stuff of the 70s. would offer. It kind of like Drive My Car just has that feeling. A great song, corny, definitely a kind of some cheesy like woo woo woo, like almost reminded me of like the 70s um kind of at the car wash kind of thing. Um but it was actually uh it definitely is setting a tone for what's to come. Norwegian Wood's got that kind of very folky feel to it. Solid songs. And then, to be honest with you, and I'm gonna upset a lot of Beatles fans when I say that this album, it was hit or miss for me, songs wise, and a lot of people would probably like want to burn me for that, but after that, Nowhere Man, Think for Yourself, okay, it's decent, it's kind of rounded out that first side, then coming into that side two, in my life, great song, and I mean that's a really solid song. This across the board. This album has a lot of good music to it. Would I say the music is super memorable? Like, it's gonna get stuck in your head, and you're going to have like, you know, be humming and singing those songs throughout your day. I wouldn't say it has more of that than it has less. But it's just a well written album, solid. I wouldn't say it's iconic in a lot of its memorability, but I would say it's definitely got some cool songs. Obviously, like I said, Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, in my life. Those are like my solid tracks. The rest of them for me were just kind of okay. They weren't great. They weren't bad. They definitely were, well done, but not as memorable as the previous couple albums that I came across. So I gave this a 6 out of 10. Gasp that a lot of people would be like, kill this man, take him off the internet. Anthony Fantano might want to stab me in the eye. But yeah, it's got some solid stuff, but it's just not super memorable for me. Good album though. Like it's solid.
All right, that's Mike's take. Kyle, what do you got for Rubber Soul?
Mike, I'm one of those people. We're gonna have to burn Mike at the stake right now. I love this album. This album is, I think, where the Beatles first finally wrote a truly great album, not just a collection of songs that has a few really incredible songs scattered in here. This one actually feels like a collective thought. It is yes, it's a collection of songs, obviously, but it is cohesive from beginning to end. Am I gonna say it's flawless? No, it's not. I mean, the first three tracks, Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, and You Won't See Me, are so good. But then it does hit a weird little middle patch here. And I mean, Nowhere Man, Think for Yourself, pretty forgettable. The Word, straight up hate that song. That is a horrendous song. Just more John Lennon hippie lyric garbage. Terrible. Michelle, nice song though. Nice track. Not one of the best, but it's good. This is one of the rare circumstances. I think the only time I'd say this about the Beatles. It is so backloaded, this album.
Hmm.
Usually the Beatles throw all their best stuff up front on the record, but side two on this one is vastly better to me. Other with the exception of Girl, which I don't like. What Goes On is good, but that run of songs from I'm Looking Through You to Run for Your Life is the best run of songs I think on any Beatles album. Like consistently back to back to back. I mean, I'm Looking Through You is fantastic. In My Life is one of my favorite songs ever written. I think it's objectively one of the best songs out there. Um, and Run for Your Life, this is a very creepy John Lennon song. Let's not lie, but it's so good. It's so catchy. It has no business being as catchy and fun as it is.
And there's no business. I like how you say
It doesn't. It sounds like a
that.
song, and hear me out. It sounds like a song that would have been on the original Scooby-Doo series, but lyrically would have no business doing such.
Mm.
So I love this album. I think that it really set the stage for what was to come next. I think the decision to not tour anymore and focus on writing albums and writing music was an excellent choice if this is what we're going to get moving forward. Uh, Huge nostalgic spot for me on this one. This was really the first Beatles album. This is the album that got me into the Beatles. So, I mean, for me, this one sits at number three. Is it
And
flawless? No, but it's fantastic.
commenting on what you said, Kyle, you've always heard Beatles mania. You've always heard of when they would go on tour, people would
Hmm.
go crazy, they would pass out, they would whatever. When you don't tour and you just write music, you create more of a legend for yourself. If you these are the days when artists could actually do such a thing and still make money and not go broke because today they're forced out onto the road with a painstaking kind of like path of like over touring and concentrated like views of every single city possible to kind of rake in those dollars and make a living. Whereas like these days, these guys were confining themselves to like some house out in the country where they take a bunch of LSD and like, oh, I saw like the trees talk to me and I wrote this song and it's the most iconic song you've ever heard. But you're not getting that in a lot of ways today. Everyone's running around busy. They're doing their, oh, I got to do my stream where I answer everyone's questions and they donate money to me. Oh, and by the way, I also have to go and work on my clothing line and I have to tour the world twice and pump out an album and it really you're really not getting the quality of music today because these artists are burned out and just suffering from fatigue of the world kind of saying more, 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 but I don't want to pay for more. I just want you to give me more. And the days that have gone are the last time that we're ever going to see true art be created through a process of not speedy release, but just like it's take your time and write good songs and in the way that you see fit, So it's I feel sorry for the current generation and the new albums coming out, and whoever can pull off that magical song clearly has a lot of inspiration where they can handle the fatigue, but not everyone's the same. Not everyone can do all that touring and all the stuff in the same way. People go to school and fail because they have to do a part-time job while simultaneously trying to feed their art. It is a really hard thing to juggle.
Well, I feel like we're in like this cyclical pattern in music now that you saw it in the early 60s and the 50s where it's just you pump out album after album or single after single to stay relevant. And then for a while we kind of probably in the mid 80s through the 2000s, let's say, we kind of got away from that and people started making good cohesive albums and taking time to make art again. And now it's just back to, all right, well, here's an album, but it's really just kind of here's like 10 songs thrown together. Half of them were released as singles beforehand, like throughout the past year, but we needed something to throw out for our label. So now we can go on two back-to-back tours and then do this and that. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, and it's again not up to the bands really. They need to make a living, so I totally get it. But it's unfortunate for the listener. I think it's unfortunate for music as a whole.
Yeah, 1965 was the same year they released, their previous album Help. So, man, talk about pumping out lots of tracks uh in a short period of time. That's amazing for two of those albums to come out back to back. Pretty much puts a lot of artists to shame when it
Hmm.
comes to what they were able to accomplish.
Absolutely. So that's gonna do it for us as far as our part one of this career discography breakdown for the Beatles. You guys have anything else for Restore It All? You guys are good?
Nope.
No?
I'm good. I'm glad that we were able to get through the first half of the discography.